Looking to sink its teeth into a larger section of the luxury market, Jaguar is offering a series of new drivetrain options for its XF sedan starting with the 2013 model year. The result? More miles per gallon, a lower starting price, and the possibility for broader appeal. For the 2012 model year, Jaguar offered the XF a facelift, and nothing's changed here, save of course the badges that denote the different engines. For the first time, Jaguar offers the car with 3 engine options: a turbocharged 4, a supercharged 6-cylinder, and the familiar V8s. Key styling highlights for the car include sharper headlights, a muscular hood, the bright mesh grille, a sloping raked roofline, and of course the 19-inch wheels that are on this car and come as standard. If you look closely at the engine options, you'll probably notice that the naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 is gone. That's because this, the 3-liter supercharged 6, is meant to replace it. You lose a little bit of power and a little bit of torque. In this case, the engine makes 340 horsepower and 332 foot-pound of torque. Also new for this year, ZF chips in an 8-speed automatic transmission to replace the old 6. With all-wheel drive, the EPA ratings suggest the car should get 16 in the city, 26 miles per gallon on the highway, or a 19 mile per gallon rating overall. The starting MSRP for this car is $53,000, and you may remember that that's exactly what you paid last year for the V8 model that this one's meant to replace. But check all the option boxes and you'll climb to almost $77,000. One of the most common pitfalls for luxury cars is a complicated interior that can be difficult to understand. Thankfully, Jaguar has done a splendid job of avoiding any of that. Instead, what you get is an easy, simply executed cabin with buttons that aren't difficult to understand and a touchscreen similarly that's very easy to learn. To the left-hand side of the center console, of course, you have the same familiar drive mode selecting wheel that pops out when you start the car. Also, you have winter modes, dynamic modes, speed control, and the traction control button, as well as an electronic parking brake. On the right-hand side, you have this gorgeous wood paneling that comes standard with the car. You can upgrade to carbon fiber, but in my personal opinion, it's not something you want to do because, in fact, even the standard rosewood in this model looks absolutely stunning. One thing that you notice if you actually spend a little bit of time looking at the small details in this cabin is that you can see where the people that built the cabin actually sanded it down so the edges are a little bit inconsistent and it just looks gorgeous. One of my favorite features about the inside of the XF is the fact that when you press the air conditioning button, those vents open up in this slow, smooth motion that just adds a little bit of a luxurious touch to the car. Now, as much as I like the touchscreen system that you'll find in both Jaguar and Land Rover's products, specifically because it's simple to use, there is something I'm not as enthused about. The digital display in between the TAC and the Speedo doesn't look very good. It's pixelated, and when you transition from the drive into the manual gear selection mode and back, you'll notice that there's an analog clock that shifts into showing you which gear you're in, and the transition between the two is jerky and it just doesn't look very good, not conducive to a luxury product at all. Finally, I can't leave the inside of this car without mentioning the suede cloth headliner, which is an option, but one that you're absolutely going to have to check off. 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds and a stated 19 miles per gallon average according to the EPA. Now, I don't doubt that 60 miles an hour happens in 6.1, and the supercharged 6 certainly feels powerful, but unfortunately we're not coming really very close to that average miles per gallon rating. Instead, we're getting just over 16 miles per gallon, which is a disappointment. So Jaguar says that the supercharged V6 is supposed to be a V8 replacement with comparable performance, and in many ways they're right. Yeah, the performance and the acceleration is very smooth and very linear. The blower delivers plenty of torque, although peak torque doesn't actually kick in until well after 3,000 RPM. This is also the first time that Jaguar has offered all-wheel drive in the XF, and if nothing else, that's going to open it up to people who have otherwise written it off in cold weather climates where there's a lot of snow. One of the things that you tend to lose with all-wheel drive is the feeling of rear acceleration that a lot of people in the luxury segment seem to crave, and the fact of the matter is that power distribution is still biased heavily to the rear with this car, so despite the fact that you do lose some of the acceleration feel, it's still very good and you get that squatting feeling when you step on the gas. As I said before, we're driving the supercharged 6-cylinder today, which is the only engine offered with all-wheel drive. That system tacks on a little bit of weight, and this is no light beast. In fact, it weighs about 4,150 pounds, which is slightly heavier than the supercharged V8 model. It's understandable why Jaguar was hesitant to offer all-wheel drive on the V8, because you can imagine that then the car would have been even heavier. If you live in a city, seeing a car like a BMW 5 Series or a Mercedes-Benz E-Class is probably about as special as coming across a Honda Accord, and that is to say, not at all. On the other hand, seeing an XF is a much more special experience. With the new engine lines in place and all-wheel drive, Jaguar has new routes to compete against the Germans, but at the same time, you have to wonder, why is it that you don't see very many of them on the road, at least comparatively? Unfortunately, the company finds itself on the low end of many reliability studies and in fact sometimes dead last. That might not matter so much if you're leasing the vehicle, as many luxury buyers do, but if you're planning on owning it for the long term, it's certainly worth considering.